Good evening and welcome to Crawley Borough Council's Overview and Scrutiny Commission meeting of the 30th of September. I am Marion Ayling, the Chair of Overview and Scrutiny Commission. There are no scheduled fire drills tonight, so in event of a fire alarm sounding, please leave the building via the main spiral staircase and through the main reception doors. Once outside, please turn left and make your way to the fire assembly point, located beyond the multi-storey car park at Exchange Road. If you are unable to use the stairs, please wait at the council chamber and you will be guided by a member of staff to the evacuation lift. This meeting is being live streamed via the council's YouTube channel. Please note that there are no comment functions available as part of this webcasting. The council is the data controller and will retain the data collected during this webcast. This will be done so in accordance with the council's published data retention policy. Any members of the public seated in the public gallery should be aware that by entering the chamber, they are consenting to their image being captured by the automated camera system. Recordings are being used for webcasting and or training purposes. Councillors are reminded to take note of what is displayed on the screen in the room, as this shows what is being recorded and webcast. Cameras are currently set to capture all in seated positions, so please remain seated while speaking. You can request to speak as usual in the committees by raising your hand, to speak by pressing the button with the face on it. The microphone will go green when you are live. We will now commence with apologies for absence. Have we received any apologies for absence?
None, Chair.
Thank you. Disclosure of interest and whipping declarations. Are there any members who have disclosure of interest or whipping declarations? Councillor Lanza.
Thank you, Chair. I declare a personal interest in item 7, Health and Adult Social Care Scrutiny Committee, as West Sussex Cabinet Member for Public Health and Wellbeing. Thanks.
Thank you. And Councillor Healy.
Yes, I declare for the same item as a NHS Public Governor. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, Councillor Pritchard.
Not a declaration of interest as such, but just to remind committee members that I'm the Chair of Planning for the discussion later with the Cabinet Member for Planning and Economic Development.
Okay, thank you. Right. Now we come to the minutes of the last meeting, held on the 2nd of September. Does the Commission agree that the minutes are an accurate record of the meeting? Do you agree? Yeah. Agree? Thank you. Right. We have 15 minutes of public question time. Mr. Simons? Yeah. I believe you wish to ask a question. Would you like to come forward, please? Yeah, and a supplementary, that's fine.
Right, try again. It's great that the planning inspector has declared your local plan sound, and so things can move forward. May I just draw your attention to the policy CL8, paragraphs 467 and 470 in the local plan, which says, which regards the development outside the built-up area west of Ifield rural fringe. It actually states that proposals which respect this area of locally special rural fringe, its nature conservation and recreation value, its positive relationship with the urban edge and links to the wider countryside, will be encouraged. In the light of the plan being declared sound, will this council encourage the proposed Ifield Country Park, Gatwick? That's the first question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Simons, for your question. I believe my officers will have an answer for this one. They will be able to answer that. Clem, you will like to?
Once we receive detailed information as to what those proposals entail, officers will then give consideration to those proposals and make recommendations to members as to what the council's position should be on those proposals. At this moment in time, we've not seen the detail in relation to what's proposed in that context. But as you rightly put out, the council's policies in that regard are as set out as per your quotation from the local plan.
So in terms of encouraging possibly the proposal of a Ifield Country Park, could we look at that as a community as a positive thing that you would encourage, or not, or can't you kind of predict?
I think it's difficult to tell on the basis of obviously the absence of any detailed information that we would need to obviously assess before we came to a position on it.
Right, thank you. The second question actually relates to, well, I understand that obviously the council opposes the West of Ifield development, which is great. What does concern me is a report by Sistra, which I got this morning, which actually was published in 2022, so it's quite tricky. But in paragraph 223 of the report, which actually was the client or the project owner was actually Crawley Borough Council, relating to the Crawley Western Link Road Northern Section study. It says actually in paragraph 2.3, within the context of these strategies, the main purposes of this northern section of the Crawley Western Relief Road are to support the development of the West of Ifield housing. I know this was stated in 2022, but obviously there's been public pronouncements relating to your support for or opposing West of Ifield, and these just two things seem to be in contradiction. And I was just wondering if you could provide any clarification.
Okay, so one of the reasons Crawley Borough Council is opposing West of Ifield as per the full council motion of October 2021 is the impact on Crawley's existing road network and the lack of attention to infrastructure provision from the proposals. And this piece of work that you're referring to is quite clearly part of our due diligence to ensure we can identify the infrastructure that would be needed within Crawley's boundaries for the multimodal transport link to account for the possibility that the West of Ifield scheme will be permitted by Horsham District Council in the future. So the text that you're referring to is actually a text from a consultant's piece of work. And in essence, in that context, the meaning of the word support that you're referring to is very different.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Didn't have my mic on either. Thank you for your questions. Item 5. We will now start the Crawley Borough Council's local plan report from Councillor Nawaz and Cabinet Member for Planning and Economic Development, Clem Smith, Head of Economy and Planning, Sally Lampard, Forward Planning Manager, and Elizabeth Bryden, Planning Policy Manager. That's a mouthful.
Thank you, Chair. And thanks for giving me the chance to present this report. I'll give it a little bit intro, and then officers will be here who can help with any questions and if members may have. Good evening, everyone. First of all, I'm really pleased that our Crawley Local Plan 2023-2040 has been found by the independent planning inspector to be legally compliant and sound. Obviously subject to some relatively straightforward modifications in the inspector's final report, which was issued on 6th of September 2024, which obviously you can see set out in the report. Inspector's final report makes the successful end of the local plan examination and a significant period of plan making for the council, which has taken a considerable period of time since the local plan review started back in 2018. So this tells you it's taken a long time to get to this point. Since then, our new local plan has benefited from no less than 5 separate periods of formal public consultations, and also consideration has also received positive state endorsement from full council 3 times. The only options we have now at the council at this stage are to either adopt this plan in its entirety with all the main modifications required by the inspectors, or not adopt the plan at all and immediately have to start all over again from the start and work on a new plan, because all authorities are required to prepare and maintain an up-to-date local plan. Without the new local plan being adopted, so that's the danger, decisions on planning applications would ultimately be taken away from local decision making, obviously exclusion of us being able to say anything in the planning committee. Applications and appeal would have to be considered solely against the national policies as set out in the national policy planning policy framework. And the absence of local plan being adopted would mean a significant risk of approval, therefore potentially a very poor development in the wrong places without any local ability to prevent them. This poor development would fail to reflect the local needs. Obviously, without local plan being adopted, it would not be possible to secure some of the essential Section 106 monies, which we can collect through community infrastructure levy, which can be quite critical for Crawley, so we can invest in our infrastructure and obviously employment side of things and skills improvement. We will not be able to secure affordable housing on small sites, and it would also not be possible to tackle particular local issues such as water neutrality, off-airport parking, which is a big issue we've seen every day now from residents, where parking is quite a nightmare from off-airport parking. Well, if we adopt the local plan by full council, then the council will be in a much stronger position to ensure new development meets a range of local requirements to benefit Crawley's local community and economy. This includes a better housing mix suitable for residents of Crawley, affordable housing contributions from all residential developments, a wide range of planning obligations for investments in sustainable transport and active travel, employment and skills, a genuine biodiversity net gain from all new developments, and protect important heritage, environment and recreation assets within the borough. Obviously, we can also continue to defend, make us in a strong position to defend against the off-airport parking or airport-related car parking issues. Inspector's final report has very positive conclusions, such as Council has engaged constructively and met the duty to cooperate with neighbouring authorities and stakeholders, and its position in relation to proposed schemes and on its administrative boundary is reasonable. Safeguarding land for potential future Gatwick Airport expansion is justified, whilst the allocation of the proposed strategic employment site, Gatwick Green, is also appropriate as part of strategy that sustainably meets the borough's employment needs. The supply-led housing requirement is supported, and the affordable housing requirements are justified. The joint approach to water neutrality is supported, and the partnership work from the affected authorities was noted. I believe all in all, our positive outcome from the examination by planning inspectors of our local plan Adopting the plan will safeguarding the ability for the local planning authority to assess the planning application against the local policies and prioritise for years to come. I'm very hopeful that full council will respond positively and move to adopt the local plan for Crawley's great benefits. And obviously, that's a very great news for us. It's been approved by inspectors. Happy to take any questions from the members and officers over here. We'll be happy to respond as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and a few comments and questions. Yeah, thank you, Councillor Nawaz, for presenting this, and thanks to the planning team, our officers in the planning team, for really an excellent piece of work for this plan to be found sound by the planning inspector, and also with quite a lot of complimentary remarks, I would say, that we quoted in this report, and which would be even more apparent if we were to look at the appendices to this report in some detail. I was really pleased to see some commentary from the inspector to the effect that, and I'm paraphrasing, but the land being safeguarded for a potential southern runway, a full wide space runway, that if this were to carry on being safeguarded indefinitely, then that could be a cause of harm to future planning within Crawley Borough, because there is developable land there which cannot in practice be developed while all of that safeguarding land is held in place. And those remarks need to be seen in the context of the development consent order application for the existing emergency or standby runway within the airport boundary being adapted, and in fact the spacing between the two runways increased to allow the use of the standby emergency runway for some departures. So if that were to go through, and who knows what's going to happen with that, then it becomes slightly less tenable to maintain indefinitely the safeguarded land to the south of the airport. It's also good to see from the inspector's comment the recognition both of our space constraints for new build housing of all tenures, and also therefore the real need for neighbouring local authorities to exercise the duty to cooperate to assist with Crawley's housing needs. I think it's very positive to see those comments from the planning inspector. Generally, there are a lot of very good comments from the planning inspector, and the way, I have to say, the way they word their opinion, I kind of wish I hope I'd be able to craft some sentences like that myself. I mean, there's a lot of wisdom in their commentary, quite frankly, and the way they put it is really very good. And another area I think where we're doing well is in trying to combat the constraints of water neutrality with the retrofitting of devices in the housing stock to limit water consumption to some extent, and that is recognised in this report as well. I did have one question after all that, and the Gatwick Green allocation. There's an expression in this main report today which says excluding Gatwick Green from the safeguarded land is a good thing, and I'm not sure. Elsewhere, the wording is clearer, but that particular wording is a little bit ambiguous, I think, because it can mean you're not going to ever have Gatwick Green as an allocation within the safeguarded land area, or it can mean that you're going to ignore the safeguarded land for the purposes of the Gatwick Green allocation and have it allocated within the safeguarded land area. Can there please be clarity on what that actually means with respect to Gatwick Green, if you can please? I just see some ambiguity there. The final comment is, again, I think we as a commission should record our thanks to the team on getting it this far. Thank you.
Can I just answer on the Gatwick Green point? The only way that we could allocate the Gatwick Green site is by securing its exclusion from safeguarding. So the whole discussion through the examination hearings was us arguing why it was justifiable to take it out of safeguarding and therefore be available to be allocated for another purpose, for an economic use. And Gatwick obviously arguing that it should remain within safeguarding. And fortunately, the inspectors concluded in our favour.
Can I just
probably just the wording in the...
Can I just double check that, please? Does that mean we're able to allocate Gatwick Green within that area of land which is now safeguarded?
No, it means the area of land where we have allocated Gatwick Green is no longer safeguarded.
Okay, that's helpful.
That had to come first.
Yeah, the area.
We had to. Yeah, we first had to be able to demonstrate that it was no longer, in our view, was not needed for safeguarding, and convince the inspectors of that.
Okay.
And then we could allocate it. So the two were done at the same time, obviously.
That's really helpful. But can we, be very, very clear in our wording of that? Yeah.
Chair, I have noticed Crawley Local Plan and Cabinet Member discussion are separate items on the agenda. Are we still on the local plan? Okay, I'll come back.
Thank you, Chair. One of the things that I did bring up at the pre-meeting was it was just in relation to, we're looking at water neutrality with all our plans, but I do have concerns about wastewater and our ability to actually deal with that in any plan that we have moving forward. That's my first question. My second one is just in relation to the backdating of the plan. We've put the extension of the plan, but there's concern around, is it usual to do it in that way? Thank you.
Hi, thank you. I'm happy to answer both of those questions. In terms of wastewater, yes, you're absolutely right. It is critical. It is infrastructure that's essential, and it's also infrastructure that we're very aware of is a constraint to potentially a constraint to development going forwards. We have got requirements in the local plan, in the new local plan, which require developers to get in touch with Thames Water at very early stages in order to ensure that that will be something that can be addressed as part of their progress forwards. They're also aware of our local plan figures, and obviously having an up-to-date local plan, one of the benefits of that is that it's very clear to everybody how much development is going to be coming forward, and we also have a trajectory which shows the likely timescales for that development to come forward as well, which helps the infrastructure agencies to plan ahead. But absolutely, it is one of the infrastructures that we are very conscious of within the borough. In terms of the second question, the backdating of the local plan, that was a quirk. Those who have been following the local plan very closely might have realised that we submitted a plan which ran from 2024 to 2040. And our reasoning behind this is because the national planning policy requirements are for you to have a local plan that lasts for at least 15 years post-adoption. And we were aware when we submitted the local plan in July 2023 that it wouldn't be adopted until 2024 at some point. We were aiming for July. Things move on. So we submitted a plan which we took the adoption date and we gave ourselves a little bit of leeway just in case and went to 2040. Through the local plan examination, the inspectors requested us to start the plan period from when we submitted it and when the evidence was gathered for that time. So that was obviously for July 2023. So the most up-to-date evidence we had was from the end of March 2023. The plan figures run forwards to 2040, and that 18 months, the period of time between 2023 and 2024 essentially was counted for in the background data, The inspectors have asked us to put it into the plan. So that's why there is a change in the housing figures and the like, because it counts for the provision that was already identified for the year 2023 to 2024. So in effect, it didn't change any of the evidence. It doesn't change anything going forward. It doesn't add anything going onto the years between 24 to 2040. It essentially just includes in the plan the evidence for that preceding year. So we have a plan that now runs for a 17-year period rather than the 16-year period, but it covers 15 years post-adoption. I hope that's clear, but happy if I've confused things further to try and clarify better. So, thanks.
Thank you, Chairman. The page 13 of the report sets out the timeline of this local plan. You can clearly see we are at the very end stage, and as the Cabinet member said when he introduced the item, it would not be credible to, well, there isn't much that could be done now apart from scrapping the whole thing, and that clearly would not be a credible position to take. So there isn't really, in my view, much option at this stage but to support the local plan, because it has been a long process and there's been opportunities for input all the way through. What has changed since prior to receiving the inspector's final report is that there has been a change of government, and housing targets have been changed across the country. And I appreciate various local authorities will be at different stages of their local plans. Some will be, we're at the very end, others will be earlier, either beginnings or mids or towards the end. So I do have a question in that I'm still not quite sure what our housing numbers are under the new regime from government. My understanding is that it was actually slightly less than the previous total, but I don't know what those numbers are. But also I note in the report as well that we're only able to meet, calculated at 41% of our housing need. And I recall previously it was about 50%. But the inspector recognises that we're not able to do that, and the inspector seems fine with that. So, who are we to argue? But I do notice a trajectory that we are increasingly unable to meet our own housing need, and I don't expect that to get any easier. But just going back to the change in numbers, my understanding is that larger rural authorities are having greater numbers of housing imposed upon them from central government, and that will clearly have some impact around Crawley's borders potentially. It's something likely to have a greater impact, but really my question is what are the changes for our numbers, and does that affect this local plan? I suspect probably not, but I have heard other local authorities who've been trying to, the language we used was sort of sneak through their local plans on their old numbers now that they've got new higher numbers, and that is more challenging for them. But I think it's probably not for us, but I'd welcome to hear a view on that. Thank you.
Yes. Unusually, and actually Crawley is one of the few authorities where this has happened, but our need figure actually reduces with the new standard method calculation. The new method's based on existing housing stock in an area, together with a affordability uplift, but they've also removed the caps and removed the uplift for the cities, so that has made a difference. So our need figure has gone down from 755, as it's been taken into account for the new local plan, to 661. So that's obviously still well above our supply-led housing requirement, which is set in the local plan at 314, and that's based on the land availability in Crawley, all of the constraints that we've got, and has obviously been through the local plan examination, and the inspectors have accepted, and I think they actually used the wording "no stone unturned" in their report, and said they accept that there really is nowhere else that we could build. In terms of our neighbouring authorities, you're absolutely right, they have increased significantly. Horsham, for example, gone up from 917 to 1,294, and Mid Sussex gone up from 1,039 to 1,276. And then in terms of transition arrangements, Crawley, if we don't adopt the local plan before the new NPPF is adopted, then the transition arrangements mean a month after adoption, any local plan that is subsequently adopted that is more than 200 dwellings below the standard method will have to immediately start a new local plan. As long as we get the plan adopted before the new NPPF, we won't be caught by that requirement. Obviously, from a Crawley perspective, we are well below that 200 per annum figure. And we would therefore have to produce a new local plan, which still won't be able to find any more housing. But yeah, as long as we can get the plan adopted, we wouldn't be caught by that transition arrangement.
Thank you.
Hopefully that clarifies it.
Thank you, Chair. It's quite interesting in the last discussion with Councillor Lanson and Councillor Crowe, because, and the increase by Mid Sussex and Horsham, because I was just looking at paragraph 22 in the inspector's report, which is not in front of us tonight, but and it looks like it says there that based on the evidence, in 2015, the unmet housing needs were accommodated within the North West Sussex housing need thing, but for this, neither authority had committed during the preparation of Crawley's plan to accommodate any housing needs. So that seems to be a slight contradiction of what has just been explained. But perhaps I am new to the local plan. Obviously, I've come in May. I'm reading directly from the inspector's report on paragraph 22. So that's my first question. That's just in response to that. And just in terms of housing need and transport infrastructure, I should know that as part of the Regulation 19 to Horsham, I did actually put something in as an individual before as a councillor on problems with the transport infrastructure. And so it's quite interesting when I read in terms of the Crawley Western multi-mobile transport link that there were concerns the inspector agreed there was concerns about the pressures on the town and on the road capacity because of that. But obviously, that was related to what happened in Crawley. Just a few other comments and questions, if I may. I should say, in general, thank you very much again for this seminar, all members seminar. That was really useful. And as a result of that, I did ask quite a lot of questions about Gatwick Green, because it's in our ward. And it's been quite a steep learning curve, but we get in there. And it is good that it's been taken out of I read it was been taken out of the safeguarding. But I did notice there seems to be a strip of land between by the M23 and A23 link. Is that around Pigsbrook Lane, or is it past that? That's just one question. But it is interesting in terms of Gatwick Green that there is unmet needs from 2015. And actually, the 44 hectares we're going for at the most does give us a bit more capacity than as a light industrial and distribution. And it's interesting, again, the inspector agreed about the third lands part, which isn't really part of that. So that was quite interesting. Obviously, being a Pandora North and Portsmouth councillor, the big problem will be infrastructure. And I think a big thing to come from this local plan is the integrated transport management group, which West Sussex Highways Agency and Crawley will be part of, which was drawn to my attention to the local plan. That's really good news. So those kind of issues should hopefully be not solved, because I think it's going to be tough times ahead. And just in a couple of other things, in terms of noise, it's quite interesting that the inspector agreed that the decibels on the Soel should go down to 60 decibels, which is quite significant. And I didn't realise, just after reading inspectors, that an extra 3 decibels is virtually doubling the noise. So that was quite encouraging in terms of, future plans, particularly on housing in that particular area. And again, I'm sorry I'm not referring to the actual report, but in terms of water neutrality, obviously it's a key issue for us at the moment. And I did notice in paragraph 241 that the inspector did mention about establishing the need to facilitate growth in the short and medium term. And obviously water neutrality is quite an issue for us. And I thought it was quite an interesting comment because, you know, I know in terms of the risk management plan as well, which is separate to this, that we are seen to be taking a cautious approach, but obviously, although inspectors agreed with our approach generally, I hope there's some wiggle room. And finally, actually, Councillor Jones was cabinet member at the time behind the local cycling walking infrastructure networking group. Well, the one thing I've learned, one of many things I've learned since I've been on the council is that walking and not cycling is probably just as important to local people, and particularly to new developments. And there's a couple of areas which I'm concerned about where people, you know, want to walk to local pubs, kids want to go to school, Gatwick School, and just go to the local primary school. So I was just asking, obviously they're happy with that report from 2021, but I presume it doesn't preclude us updating it anytime soon if we want to, because I noticed the working group, they're happy with the working groups, but it's mainly on cycling. I just think, particularly new developments, when we let the bed down, you start to see what patterns of behaviour people have. I think in terms of walking, and we try and encourage walking, that would be a good thing to do as well.
Thank you. That range of questions highlights the range of the local plan, so thank you for that. I think I've got the first question, which was relating to the inspector's comments about the what our neighbouring authorities can meet and what they can't meet. So with the adopted plans, the plans that we agreed in 2015, and I think the Mid-Sussex plan was adopted in 2018, actually all of the numbers, by the time the plans were adopted, did pick up the whole of the housing market area's housing needs. So essentially, Mid-Sussex and Horsham pretty much took half and half of Crawley's unmet needs. The current series of local plans, so Crawley's the first one to get its plan to this stage and have gone through examination, haven't yet reached that point. So what we are very aware of is that Horsham are also affected by water neutrality, which has had a significant impact on their housing numbers and what they're able to deliver within this current plan period. They're not ruling it out as an indefinite, they're just saying during this current plan period, they're proposing these figures. And I think Mid-Sussex are meeting about, I think they have about 900 dwellings over the whole plan period spare. So our planning inspectors recognised that that was the case that we are in right now, but obviously there's still the examinations to go through for the Horsham and Mid-Sussex plans, which will essentially determine whether or not they are meeting a sufficient level of housing needs. I mean, I don't think Horsham are actually even meeting their own housing need, but the requirement obviously nationally is to meet your housing need and any unmet needs from neighbouring authorities as a starting point. So we've yet to go through that period of examination with the Mid-Sussex and Horsham plans. So our inspectors recognise that at this moment in time we are not where we were when we'd adopted all of the current plans, but they recognise that that's as far as Crawley can go right now. And actually, I think they mentioned in their report that it's helpful to have Crawley's housing number set at this stage, so that it's very clear to our neighbouring authorities and the inspectors dealing with those plans what they have to look at and see what they can accommodate, obviously sustainably within their districts. So that's the answer to the first question. I think the second one was in relation to the transport infrastructure and the impact on the town, yes, I think we agree with that, with your understanding of the inspector's report in relation to yes, the impact of any development adjacent to Crawley coming on into Crawley. I don't know. Do you want me to? Yeah. Yeah.
I can touch on, you raised a question about the strip of land remaining outside Gatwick Green, between Gatwick Green and the M23. That is the case, and that is because it was all safeguarded originally by Gatwick, all the way up to the motorway, because if they are to bring, or are to bring that southern runway forward, they need to divert the A23, and it would go round and immediately adjacent to the M23 going north. They would be also demolishing the properties that are along that strip of land. For Gatwick Green, we don't need to do that. The properties will remain in situ. There's no suggestion of compulsory purchase, and there will be significant landscape buffers, because obviously we've got to respect the residential amenity. So that's why there is that sort of slight, it's because obviously when we were removing the land from airport safeguarding, we were leaving in place the land that Gatwick would need should they be bringing forward a southern runway.
Just in response to your question about the LC WIP, so the local cycling and walking infrastructure plan, just to confirm that it is our intention for the LC WIP document to be refreshed, updated, obviously to take account of the local plan should members agree to adopt the local plan at full council. We'll be working closely with West Sussex County Council colleagues and stakeholders on that, local stakeholders from the Active Travel Crawley group, to take that forward.
Thank you. I have actually got a question as well, and the numbers are a bit different to what Elizabeth just said. My question is that the 755 dwellings, it's a great number of houses, and I agree that we need them. We do need them. I just wondered where we were going to put them, and will they be flats or houses, and will they be social housing, and will it mean that we're expanding the Crawley boundary at all? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Yes, so 755 dwellings is the requirement that that based on the standard method that the government set out, Crawley's population growth would require over the plan period. What the inspectors have agreed and what we've got in the local plan is that we would be taking a supply-led position whereby we wouldn't be able to provide that full 755 dwellings per annum. Instead, we have a substantial amount of unmet needs that's part of the negotiations with our neighbouring authorities. So that takes the a proportion of the need and disperses it somewhere within the housing market area. However, that still doesn't mean that the amount of land that we have in Crawley is vast, and actually the number that we've come up with by looking at the land that we've got and the sites that we've got is still extremely challenging for us to even meet the levels of housing that we're proposing through the local plan. So essentially over the plan period we would be providing at least 5,330 new dwellings. Won't come forward as a flat annual figure. It does vary year on year and certainly tails off towards the end where we don't have as many obvious sites to bring forward, and we have about 7,505 dwellings that's unmet needs. So that just gives you the scale of the balance of what's coming within Crawley and what's being picked up elsewhere. In terms of whether there'll be flats or houses, it is a mix. We have got a very clear policy within the local plan which requires a good mix of housing, of dwelling sizes. So whether it comes forward as flatted accommodation or houses, we want a good mix of all. So we are requiring family-sized and family-designed apartments, and we are also requiring family-sized, family-designed small houses. So your two-bed houses, as well as your you know, not having all the 2 beds as apartments and all the houses as 3 beds. That sort of thing. So we have got that in the local plan as a policy. It's very much tied to the analysis of what Crawley residents need. So going forwards, looking at population growth. So it's very much tied to the existing needs of the town. And in terms of whether it be social housing, we do have obviously the affordable housing requirement. The policy's maintained. It's 40% borough-wide for any new residential development, but within the town centre that is reduced due to viability constraints that we were unable to overlook, and we obviously feel very strongly about taking a strong position that we can maintain as officers through planning discussions, rather than ending up with zero affordable housing on every scheme because we're losing it to viability arguments. So we have taken that forward, and what we have also been able to successfully achieve through the local plan examination is to ensure that we get affordable housing on every residential development that includes 1 or more dwellings, which is contrary to the national policy, which actually has a threshold of 10 dwellings. But because Crawley has quite a lot of small sites and small developments, and because we are so reliant on those to meet some of the housing needs, that the inspectors have agreed that our affordable housing requirements should be met from every development. So hopefully, and in terms of expanding the boundaries, no, that doesn't fall within the remit of the local plan. It is a separate procedure. However, obviously you will be aware of the neighbouring proposals on our boundaries that are coming forward in the Mid-Sussex and Horsham district plans.
All committee members have had the opportunity to speak, so we will move on to the recommendation. Just make sure no one wants to speak. No? Good. I move that the Commission notes the report and requests the views expressed during the debate are fed back to the Cabinet through the Commission's comment sheet. And I ask the Vice Chair to second, please.
Yes, I second that.
Thank you. Recommendations are agreed. Agreed? Okay. Thank you. I'm pleased to welcome Councillor Nawaz to update the Commission on housing portfolio and the roles and his responsibilities. I hand over to Councillor Nawaz prior to the Commission wanting to ask any questions.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think so on housing, but planning and economic
Oh, sorry,
development.
did I say housing? Oh, yeah, it does say housing on here.
No,
Sorry,
fair enough.
planning. I was just reading it off the thing.
That's okay. Thanks, Chair. I don't know if Mr. Irvine, Councillor Irvine might be not happy with me taking the housing straight away.
It was Councillor Irvine's turn last time. It was already
No,
copied
thank
and
you.
pasted.
I'm pleased to be invited here and obviously discuss the planning and economic development portfolio. This is my service area and responsibilities as a Cabinet Member for Planning and Economic Development. So I'm here today to highlight some of the progress and achievements. Obviously, the high-level responsibilities as a function is already part of the report, I'll go through some very briefly on those. As you're probably aware, with the recent discussion of the local plan, this portfolio plays a vital role in shaping our town's future, ensuring both sustainable growth and economic resilience. So I'll continue with that, split my notes into two. First, I will discuss about more planning side of things, and then follow on with the economic regeneration. So as a cabinet member in this service area are to oversee the development management, which also include planning application process, tree preservation orders, planning enforcements, the community infrastructure levy, building control, as well as strategic planning and local plan. So when I talk about highlight the progress of things, I would like to highlight the three biggest achievements in the recent past, and which is really good and still progressing through the processes. So first of all, I say Gatwick Northern Runway DCO, the Crawley Local Plan, and our work to tackle the water neutrality challenge, which we've been hit quite hard in Crawley. When we talk about DCO, Gatwick Northern Runway, I'm quite pleased to say that I think the officers will back it up after the intensive 6-month examination by planning inspectors for the Gatwick DCO. A Section 106 agreement has been finalised with the airport, with tens of millions of pounds of additional funding commitments from the airport, significantly more than anticipated, which is really good news for Crawley, bringing the inward investments from our very important partner, Gatwick. The success has come about because of constructive dialogue with Gatwick Airport, backed up by very close and effective partnership, working with 9 other local authorities, including West Sussex County Council, Horsham District Council, Mid Sussex District Council, and our neighbouring authorities in East Surrey. Just to mention that there are still significant shortfalls in the DCO itself as regards the levels of environmental controls and monitoring proposed to be applied to the airport, but the Section 106 agreement is a positive step into the right direction. So it's good we managed to secure the funding through Section 106 from Gatwick Airport. Secondly, Crawley Local Plan, I think we discussed on detail just a few minutes ago, so I don't think I need to go into detail too much here, but I would like to compliment the development management team. All the intensive hard work has gone in to prepare the local plan and getting some really positive comments, as mentioned by members earlier, on the local plan, which hopefully will be adopted very soon. Also, water neutrality, we briefly touched about it, but I think as a planning authority, we've been able to achieve some significant step forward in tackling the water neutrality challenge, which is unique to us in the entire country as part of Sussex North. Policy level, planning inspectorate have given the green light to groundbreaking new policy and strategy on water neutrality as part of the local plan, the first of its kind in the entire country. I think that's something really need to be proud of. It was something put on us without any prior notice or anything, which hampered Crawley's growth and put development into question. But I think officers worked really hard with neighbouring authorities as well to get to where we are under duty to cooperate. But already been mentioned by members on the retrofit program with the Crawley homes, with the water efficiency appliances offsetting scheme, will make possible delivery of affordable homes in our borough, which is also first of its kind in terms of bringing on a mass level those devices being fit into our stock, which is really, really good. When it comes to the economic development and regeneration service area, so I believe this continues to be a real hive of physical and economic regeneration activity in Crawley Town Centre and Manor Royal. Also Town Centre bid as well, which is also part of the our town. This almost continue to bring inward investment from obviously public funding investment of 120 million unlocked by the team since 2017, working in partnership with West Sussex County Council, the Manor Royal bid, and other stakeholders. The capital funds have delivered and are continuing to deliver over 30 regeneration schemes across the Crawley Growth Programme, Crawley Towns Fund Programme and Crawley Employment and Skills Programme. We have seen the great success of the regeneration of Queensway and Queen Square. We have more recently seen the completion of the Eastern Gateway scheme, led by West Sussex, and early this summer, the borough led on the commencement of Western Boulevard scheme, which is being much needed bus and cycle road connectivity improvements, as well as much better business and living environment for pedestrians. Hopefully, that will be completed very, very soon. And we are about to submit a planning application for the 7.4 million station gateway scheme, the next phase in the town centre regeneration programme. This will deliver major improvements to the pedestrian thoroughfares on the Martlets, Haslett Avenue, West and Friary Way. In parallel, officers are continuing to work closely with the railway authorities to progress the Three Bridges station improvement scheme through the railway authorities' procedures, which are station change, asset protection and land management. We are expecting these procedures to be completed soon to allow the Three Bridges station scheme to progress on to the next step, which is to procure the contractors to start delivering the eastern access to the station and the improvements to the station forecourt. If I mentioned some of the highlights of the Crawley Towns Fund programme, I'm pleased that the building conversion works to establish the new Crawley Innovation Centre in Manor Royal are nearly complete, or very nearly complete, which hopefully will be handed over to us in October. Once it's handed over, I think we are well ahead in terms of procuring our first tenants in November and December, and some others are also interested in January months. So it looks like a really positive addition to our town, and especially Manor Royal bit. You might be hearing, we might be seen in the pictures as well about the Institute of Technology. We recently visited and signed the steel signing ceremony with the officers and other stakeholders. It was great to see that Institute of Technology is coming together, and that will be a great addition to Crawley, a big step to bringing up the skills hub to Crawley town centre. Now, if I talk about some of the projects which are going into the Manor Royal bid, we are expecting some great things from there. Re-energize Manor Royal project by the Manor Royal bid to roll out installation of solar energy panels in commercial spaces across the business district. We're also excited by the prospect of achieving the comprehensive gigabit speed broadband coverage across the Manor Royal business district, so that that any commercial space located in the business district can access hyperfast broadband speeds. I can go on, but just to conclude, looking ahead to the coming year, we have a lot to look forward to. Opening the Crawley Innovation Centre, opening the new Institute of Technology, start on site next year of Station Gateway, the next phase of Crawley's Crawley Towns Centre regeneration programme. Fantastic opportunity to see new major strategic employment site come forward, Gatwick Green. Prospect of even more significant breakthroughs in navigating much needed major residential development schemes in Crawley throughout the water neutrality requirements, so they can at last be delivered on site, which I think is a lot to cover. I try to give you very high level from there, but this team is very busy, and I think working really hard to deliver our strategic targets and tactically and long term as well. So well done to the team on that. If you have any questions, happy to answer. Team's here as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nawaz. For the last 15 months, I've been the chair of the planning committee, and I will praise the officers we have within the planning department very highly. Very professional team we have. There have been many pressures on the planning department recently. We've just had the local plan, the DCO and water neutrality being three of them. which I can understand puts a massive pressure on the department. But many councillors are contacting me regarding significant delays to relatively simple planning applications. Planning applications taking more than a year for simple matters, and then confusing information being given to applicants. I have met with Clem a couple of times regarding specific instances. Can you tell us what you're doing to reduce the backlog of planning applications and hopefully make our planning system a lot easier for our residents to use?
Thank you. Thanks for your question, Councillor Pritchard. I believe one of the big issue we do face in the department is known, which is I've mentioned in both previous points, is water neutrality. Because of that time and Gatwick DCO time consuming exercise, and the officer is quite busy on that. So that's probably adding to it, but I'll let the head of the service to mention what steps we are taking to clear the backlog and answer any concerns you might have.
Thanks very much, Atif. So in terms of our response, quite clearly, as Councillor Noaz has set out there, we have had some unprecedented challenges that the planning team have faced. And this is an issue which has affected all planning authorities up and down the country. The COVID scenario caused significant practical pressures for planning authorities across the country having to operate on a hybrid basis. This led to significant backlog in applications across the country. So in recognition of that, the government actually issued a specific funding programme called the Backlog Reduction Fund in order to allow planning authorities to apply for funding to basically bring in additional planning officers. And that is partly what we have done. We have secured resources to be able to recruit additional development management officers with a specific focus on reducing the backlog that came about as a consequence of COVID, but unfortunately has been exacerbated in our situation by the advent of water neutrality. As has been mentioned, it is an issue which is unique to this part of the world. Not only did we have to deal with that, we've also had to deal with the Gatwick DCO programme and the 6-month very intensive examination that the DCO application had to go through. And with Crawley as the central host authority, bearing in mind Gatwick is within our borough, we have been leading and coordinating the response of the 10 authorities to that proposal. So as I hope I'm spelling out as to the extent to which the development management team has been under significant strain as a consequence of the convergence of all of these pressures. In terms of how we're dealing with that, in terms of how we've dealt with the Gatwick DCO, we have put in place a new management approach where we've been able to free up the development management group manager to allow her to go on to Convent to work alongside the strategic planning team to focus full-time on the Gatwick DCO. And we've therefore been able to boost management capacity within the team by enabling one of the other managers to act into her role, and then another senior planning officer to backfill that person's principal planning officer role. So we've taken steps to boost management capacity, we've taken steps to boost staffing capacity, and we've been able to secure additional resources also through the Gatwick Reserve Fund, which members approved, to allow us to have more money to support the development management team. In addition to that, and recognising the fact that the government's intention is to bring forward planning reforms which have potentially a bearing on how local planning authorities are assessed with regard to planning applications. We are using the opportunity with the additional management capacity to undertake a performance review and assessment of the planning team to look at how we can restructure the approach to align to the government's new ways that they want to do things in planning terms, but also address some of the issues that obviously have been raised in terms of some of the applications which have taken too long. Clearly, there's a number of mitigating factors as to why that's been the case. The combination of all the factors that I've just spelt out, but obviously in particular instances, there are circumstances where that performance could have been better, and we're taking steps to address that.
Yes, please. Obviously, I set out. I understand the pressures that have the planning officers have been under. Have we seen a reduction in the backlog in the past 6 months?
Yes, we have seen a notable reduction in the backlog, particularly thanks to the uplift in management capacity and staffing capacity.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a question in relation to sort of item C. We talk about the economic development and regeneration. It's good that we've got inward investment happening in the town. As part of sort of the plan and really your role, Councillor Nawaz, what are we doing or providing for about the ongoing maintenance? We're going to put a lot of investment into new projects that we've got, but I think it's fair to say that some of the town is looking a little bit tired and kind of really needs a little bit of TLC, for want of a better word. Outside Orchard Street car park springs to mind. When I walk in that area, it doesn't look very good. So is part of your remit and the role to look at that as part of the regeneration? Perhaps you can clarify, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hellier, for your question. I believe, as I spelt out earlier in my intro, there are lots of regeneration projects going on into the town centre, and one of them is the Station Gateway scheme. And hopefully, as the more funds become available, we'll continue to look into the town how we can regenerate more. And in terms of your finding more projects to do that, in terms of your question about maintenance, I'll look for my officers to give you a little bit more detail what the maintenance side of it. But I totally agree. Being new town and given where we are slowly getting there. And then our town centres definitely look much better what it was a few years ago. When I say a few, I meant 10 years ago. So there are a significant amount of investment has gone in, and hopefully after Station Gateway scheme, this part of the town will look much better. But we will get to the other side of the town as the funds available. Clem, you want to say something about the maintenance side of it?
Yeah, the maintenance proposals in the context of that project are being picked up as an integral part of the project's development. So, for example, on the project board, we have colleagues from the Community Services team division within the council who are working with us and advising with us on that. And we're working to progress the maintenance and engaging with other stakeholders like West Sussex County Council in order to agree a way of managing that and ensuring that can be effectively resourced once the scheme has been completed.
Am I not being heard? Yeah, thank you. I thought I was. Yeah, thank you. Lost my train of thought now. We know that the government wants to build 1.5 million dwellings over the course of this Parliament, and we just heard on the previous item about the local plan, and actually Crawley's number is slightly reduced, but we heard that Horsham District Council's housing targets have gone up, but I think it was I didn't jot it down, but I think it was in the region of about 250, and that they're expected to provide about, I think it was about 1,300 or so, I think I heard, which is pretty much sort of double what Crawley's target is. So can I ask what your thoughts are on the extra housing provision that Horsham is being asked to provide, and how much more likely that makes the West of Ifield development likely to take place?
Thank you, Councillor Crowe, for your question. As I think earlier discussion, we mentioned that we have in Crawley, we have land constraints. If I may sometimes say, we are a landlocked town. As a new town, we can't really expand in our other ways, but we have to work with our partners and the duty to cooperate, to work with them to unlock some of the developments. But obviously, we are looking at other possible sites, how we can bring more housing development into that. I believe my officers will be able to answer that a little bit more detail on those observations.
Thank you. I think you're absolutely right. There are some significant challenges that Horsham District Council has been presented with by that significant uplift in housing numbers they have to deliver. And clearly one of their challenges in progressing their local plan and in submitting it to the inspectorate has been to come up with a set of strategic sites where they're able to have relative terms of realistic prospects of being able to bring those forward. I suppose in the context of the challenge that presents Crawley, I guess there are two issues. One is the extent to which there's been such an uplift in terms of their own housing requirement, that their position in terms of meeting some of our unmet housing need is significantly different compared to the previous plan and significantly more challenging. And secondly, in terms of the likelihood of them wanting to see West of Ifield come forward as part of the solution to the wider district challenge that they've got, I would say it increases from their perspective the importance of that site coming forward.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I sort of got a view there. I've got a different subject, so shall I cut out now and give other members? I'll come back later. Okay, thank you. I heard Cabinet Member briefly touch on the Three Bridges forecourt scheme. He did rattle off quite a few things that are going to be happening over the next year. I'm not sure that you mentioned that one. Have we got a timescale as to when we're likely to see some progression in that scheme? Because I recall the planning permission was granted quite some time ago now. It feels quite a while ago. So have we got an indication as to when that's likely to start? And indeed, if we have got a date as to roughly when it's going to start, how long it's going to take, and what disruption there's likely to be, because it is quite a bottleneck going through along Hazlitt Avenue during the rush hour.
Thank you, Councillor Crowe. Yes, I think I did, as I mentioned earlier, we're going through quite intense station change procedure with the authorities at this point in time. That's taken longer than we expected. Obviously, there's different stakeholders, and we need to agree with them, with the land management, the assets, the new gates to be installed on Eastern Gateways. It's a lot of things going on in there, and our officers are intense negotiating with them to agree on things. And I believe we are almost there onto the final stages of that procedure. Once that agreed, we will be in a position to appoint procure a contractor for that. If all goes well, obviously, I haven't got the date with me at this point in time, but I'm hoping we will be progressing on that project next year at some point. When you talk about challenges, I think there are obviously the highway authorities have looked at this all different modelling and given us a approved model, which one is useful in terms of turn right will not be there. But I think the challenge will be the budget. Will obviously, when we started this project a while ago, that will be one thing which can be coming us because it's taken too long to do that. I think that's probably I can say. I'm looking at Clem if you want to add something onto in terms of timelines or something.
Just to add, I think it's fair to say that it took a while to get the processes going with the railway authorities. We now have some decent momentum behind that, and good conversations going on with various parts of Network Rail, also GTR, and actually Department for Transport through Network Rail. So as a consequence of that momentum, I'm hoping that we will see some significant progress in the coming few months. If we do get that progress that I'm hoping for, as Councillor Nawaz has said, we should be in a position to bring that scheme forward. However, it's important to emphasise that it is subject to the outcome of those station and railway authority procedures. And I think it's important, obviously, we don't preempt the outcome of those procedures and what the ramifications of that outcome, of those outcomes are.
This probably sounds like a planted question, but it's not, and he doesn't. Councillor Nawaz doesn't know what I'm going to ask you. Since coming back on the council after a long time, as everyone knows, I've really been struck with the partnership stuff we've been doing with various agencies and stuff, and the inward investment. Of all those projects you've mentioned tonight, what's the one you really would like to highlight if you had a choice? I know they're all pretty good.
There are lots of projects which really, I think picking one is going to be very, very difficult. But if you ask for the personal thing, I think to my favourite Institute of Technology, that is something to give the future of Crawley. That is something we should be proud of, because that's our generations to come to benefit from it. And it's a foundation stone for something big can be, what we can achieve through Crawley. Crawley is a young town, and providing that on the doorstep is amazing. So that's my personal choice. Thank you.
That's quite interesting, because funny enough, that would be my choice, because for one reason, because lots of people have left this town, gone to other cities, and not to uni, never came back. So if we can actually keep people within the town, younger people, it must be good long term for us. In terms of a supplementary, it's a more specific question. Look, there's lots of moans and groans, particularly on social media, and actually I think our town centre, as we demonstrated last year, the footfall's pretty good. But in terms of tidying up the town, obviously I saw one today about Overline House and what's happening there. And obviously the actual entrance to Crawley Station is really good now, and the steps and stuff. But obviously I've got a feeling what the answer is, but it'd be quite good just to answer that in public today, as it seems to come up today, I thought.
Thank you, Councillor Hilton, on that. I think it's one of those projects which I think Planning Committee approved a while ago as well, but the developer has been caught up by the water neutrality. They have to prove that development is water neutral, and that is a stumbling block. I believe there's nothing else, and they have to come up with some kind of scheme. I know the developer, the owner of the land, who has some other properties within our borough, but they are struggling to come up with. But I do believe they are actively engaged with us at this point in time, and they are working through different proposals. So that, unfortunately, is an issue which we got hit most of the time with the major developments. We did manage to unlock a lot of developments with quite innovative solutions. So I believe that is something hopefully will be resolved soon, because that's quite a significant number of dwellings over there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nawaz, for attending and giving us an interesting discussion. Thank you very much. Right, and item 7 is the next item, and that's the HASC. The last meeting of the HASC took place on the 18th of September. Councillor Khan, please can you update the Commission? Thank you.
Yes, I will give a brief report on what has been going on at HASC. So the last meeting was on the 18th of September. It was a shorter meeting than usual, but there are 3 items which I would like to highlight. So the first one is the access to diabetes technology in West Sussex. So just for a bit of background on this, in February 2024, Diabetes UK wrote to the Health and Adult Social Care Scrutiny Committee asking for the topic of access to be reviewed due to concerns around local Sussex policy. So the committee is looking at these areas for scrutiny. Assurances that NHS Sussex has the right policies in place to support West Sussex residents, and whether patient outcomes have been affected through current NHS Sussex policies to not be fully aligned with national guidelines for this to be corrected. So the so that report is currently going through consideration, and members have been asked to note that that Diabetes UK also wrote to East Sussex and Brighton and Hove to overview and scrutiny committees to also scrutinise this as well. So that's something that is way on the agenda and something that we should be looking forward to scrutinising. The next item which I want to highlight is the update on the delivery of the 2-year improvement programme. So a bit of context to this as well. On the 6th of March 2024, the Health and Social Care Committee considered a report of detail and delivery of adult social care to deliver a 2-year improvement programme, and the key lines of the inquiry for this included the progress made to date with each improvement and the updated self-assessment. And so that report is currently being updated, and so work has been delivered throughout 2022 and 2023 and early 2023 to 2024, supported by transformation funding provided by the Foundation of Further Improvements and Service Development Plan within the programme. So the committee is currently seeing that programme through, and work has continued to develop a individual service fund model pilot with providers. So that is currently being discussed. And then the last point which I want to raise is the performance and resources report from Q1 to 2024 to 2025. So just a bit of context behind this as well. The quarterly performance and resources report is the council's reporting mechanism for corporate performance, finance, saving delivery, and risk and workforce. So out of the seven performance measures, 14% of services are reporting as green, and 14% are reporting as green, and 43% as amber, and 43% as red. The number of red rated key performance indicators has decreased since the last quarter, but it must be noted that this is not a strict comparison. So that is an update on that. And so the focus of scrutiny for this is what is being done to address the areas of underperformance, and using the information on performance and finance. What does the service being delivered? Does the service being delivered meet the objectives in the council plan? So thank you very much. That is a brief update from this committee.
Forthcoming discussion list. The forthcoming discussion list is featured on the agenda and also on the council's website. I will ask Heather to list those that have been referred. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Chair. There have been some changes from the items listed on the agenda. Just to note that the OSC will be receiving the update on the transformation plan at its meeting on the 4th of November, and that is along with the Cabinet Member discussion with the Cabinet Member for Resources. So, noting the changes from the agenda, there are 3 reports heading to Cabinet on the 6th of November, which will be OSC on the 4th. Those 3 reports are the Crawley Town Business Improvement District, the Health contract and the Crawley Leisure Management contract. So, given those reports, the transformation plan and the Cabinet member discussion, can you kindly let me know if you want any reports referred, please?
Yep, thank you, Chair. I mean, I'd really like to see the Health contract and the Crawley Leisure Centre management contracts come along. I mean, they're both very important areas of service delivery for the council, and we should really be scrutinising them. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, you were looking at me though, but okay, that's just fine. No, that's fine. I mean, I guess I'm always conscious of the size of an agenda. I can't imagine why we wouldn't be supporting a renewal. Let me put it that way. So in those terms, I wouldn't have thought it necessary. I would have thought there'd be a degree of unanimity on us, without preempting the decision of Cabinet, to renew that. Yeah.
Do I need to start again? Yep. Oh. We will now come to the Part B exempt report. This is the confidential section of the meeting. That under section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972, the public will be excluded from the meeting for the following item of business on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in Part 1 of the Scheduled 12A of the Act by virtue of the paragraphs specified against the item. The recording and live stream will now finish, so we wish to thank everyone for watching. Thank you.